Right. Wow. Okay. Well, ladies, how are you doing? Some of you, well, Kimiko, you're on the both actually Rachel and Kimiko are on on the West Coast, so that means it's
Yes,
7.
got up a little early.
Yeah. All right. So, um, ladies, we are we're in for an extraordinary hour plus together this morning. I am really, I just can't even believe that this gets to be my morning because um, Larissa and I met actually because of a mastermind that the two of us were in together, something that we were connected to and doing professional and personal development. And of course, one is connected to the other. And the way Larissa spoke about her work, so many epiphanies just like went off in my head as we were working through our stuff together. And and ever since then, I've just been seeing how on fire she is this year with the work that she's doing, connected to shadow power, what she calls shadow power and power that serves the whole, and how often we, as heart-centered people and leaders, just completely have a sour taste in our mouth about all power. But really, if we think about it, like, how do we restart our heart? If, you know, we need power to move our bodies, let alone bring, let our heart secrete our longings into the world. So that is really why I have Larissa here. We're going to talk about all sorts of things. But Larissa, if you want to just introduce yourself, talk about how you ended up doing this work, and then we'll kind of go from there. So,
Amazing. Thank you so much. It is such a delight to be here with all of you. And what a pleasure to be now on this arc of our friendship journey and our own professional development journey. So, I steward a body of work and I choose that language very intentionally. I steward a body of work. So I am channeling and birthing something into being, which I know is part of your conversation here in the Wellspring. And I have been listening to and following the invisible threads of sensing and curiosity for over 20 years about power. And when I started out, I had no idea that that's what I was focusing on. So, a little bit of backstory. It begins really way, way back in being immersed in a family home that was full of love. And it was so native to my cells that I was bathed in the most fundamental type of power. That was just like a vibrational baseline of my being, but then also spent a lot of time in nature, which is another most foundational terrain of power. And so I knew what it was like to have that sensation washing over me, but then interruptions to it, disagreements or yelling or getting in a fight at school, that's where the record would skip. And so I knew something was happening. I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know what the name was for it. And then fast forward to me studying interdisciplinary environmental science and policy at Stanford. And I came across an idea in a book that humans are separate from nature. And I was like, where did that idea come from? Because it's an ecological fallacy. So then it's a cultural fabrication that originated in Western thought, in European thought, and then was propagated culturally around the world through colonization. And it was about a relationship between ourselves and land and other living beings. But then that exact same thought form, and I found this out by designing my own masters to investigate the origin of this belief in Western civilization. That thought form then is where that is where the construct of racism sprouted from, and where the construct of patriarchy sprouted from, and the construct of colonialism and capitalism and globalization. So it's just like this pulling and tearing, this what I call disconnection consciousness. I was fundamentally mapping this like it's like cloth pulling apart at a seam. So it was intellectual for me in one way, but then it was also very visceral because I had a very deeply searing, disconnecting experience on campus when I learned my dad was going to die. And I tell this story a lot. So I'm just going to do the short version of it here for you because I've had many other moments that also informed it. My senior year, I was at the busiest place on Stanford campus, and I got a phone call from my mom that my dad was going to die. And I dropped to the pavement and had an out of body experience where I was both had my face smashed into concrete, learning what wailing was for the first time in my life, and simultaneously above my body, just watching bicyclists and pedestrians flow around my body like water around a rock in a river. And no one stopped. And that was this like intensely, so I know you're doing alchemical work here. Also, part of my journey is I have studied Christian Hermetic and Taoist alchemy for 15-ish, 16, 20, I don't know, a lot of years, a lot more than 15. And one of the main things I've learned is that to be precise in our alchemical capacity, to be precise in our capacity, we're just going straight in the deep end because I'm reading your body language and I'm like, let's go. Okay. So to be precise in our ability to transform anything from a base state, an imbalanced state, a blocked state, to an exalted state, we must be precise in our capacity to characterize and sense what we're transforming. So this is a level of the story about my dad's death that I've never shared publicly. So we're going to go there. So what I know happened in the moment that so if like the earth is facing the video and I'm like in the middle here, my body was reaching out multi-directionally and at literally every single direction, like a circle, like reaching with this wail of like crying for help. Right? So there's this, you can imagine these vectors of this energy like pushing and reaching and like calling with hands open in every single direction. And the absence of help, the absence of anyone stopping, came back like this much larger, more forceful, in all directions, shame and denial from the collective because I was rendered invisible. So that was the shape of the wound. We always have to understand the shape of the wound in order to then listen for the information, for the antidote encoded in the wound. That's how alchemy works. The antidote is always in the wound. So it's like each wound contains the information for its own antidote by the nature of the shape. So it's like this then pattern that I had to learn about of, oh, if I want to grow, oh, I want to expand, oh, I want to get bigger, oh, I want to express myself. And then, but what if I hit that wall again? Or when I do actually hit that wall, am I going to spiral so far back into a trauma place? It was literally an embodied, it was like an embossed. This is what happens. emboss these shapes in our consciousness. So all of our traumatic imprints leave a shape in the architecture of our consciousness that we then need to undo. I've never given this introduction about power, and it's really fun. So all I knew was it was searing. It was searing. And the other thing was so fucked up. And I curse sometimes. Good morning on the West Coast. We're like really getting up and at it this morning. I was in that moment when I'm crying on the ground. I also felt someone staring at me, and I looked over, and it was a professor with whom I had done a one-on-one directed reading. So, like a course for 10 weeks, just the two of us within the last calendar year. And she looked at me and recognized me and then just turned and went back to her conversation. So, like, I was just like imprinted. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you for feeling you. Yeah, it was brutal. So brutal. But so I've learned a lot of things. So like that was a lot of information because sensation contains information. All sensation contains types of information. So it's like, oh, is it the sensation of being like shut down? Or is it the sensation of like, I can't, like there's something like blocking my throat? Or is it the sensation of like, I just can't stop, like I just can't rest. It's like not safe for me to rest. What I realized in my path, and I'm going to wrap this intro up, is now where that moment brought me is I steward a body of work through my organization called Wayfinding. And I work with heart-centered leaders like you because I'm a heart-centered leader. And I work with heart-centered leaders to help them radically redefine their relationship to power so that we can actually create the impact. We can actually make the art. We can actually express the things that need to occur on planet Earth right now, sourced from the brilliance and the beauty and the good intent of your heart that is so open, likely because you yourself have experienced searing moments of disconnection. To be the medicine the world needs. And that the main thing, it's my hypothesis. Let's say that again. That was a little bumpy. My hypothesis, tongue is waking up. My lived hypothesis is that heart-centered leaders like us, the main thing stopping us from being in our radiant expansion, being lit up, being turned on, is our unconscious relationship with power because we witnessed someone we love experience power abuse, or we experienced power abuse ourselves. But then we're also humans on planet Earth, and we have inherited millennia of embodied epigenetic transference through our ancestry, no matter what our ancestry is, about what power is and how power is dangerous. So we get to rewrite that. So that's what we're here doing this morning. Good morning. Welcome to our conversation.
Well, thank you, Larissa, for that intro. Larissa, just like it's like the tip of the iceberg with this woman, what she just introduced. Like there's so much there. It's crazy. Like what? Like 20,000 hours of coaching, hundreds of people initiated out in the wilderness, um, an accident that you didn't mention where you
Yeah.
fell from
Yeah,
a
I
water.
also had a near fatal accident that took me
Yes.
13 years to heal from. The accident was in 2011, plus 13 is 2024. That's the calendar year now. I know a lot about emerging from the underworld, and that's what I teach other people to do.
Mm-hmm. So um can you talk about like let's just touch the nerve here because I know that the way the way you talk about power is so refreshing and I want to kind of get there. but there's no
Mhm.
way we're going to get to the full spectrum of like
No.
36 different types. Um,
Yeah.
but I want to touch the nerve because
Mhm.
I have it, lots of other people have it, especially I know it's deeply in the creative community. We're our own worst enemy, really, because we have this like, body of work that we want to bring through, and we need to be resourced, and we need to have alignment, and so often, like I say, that there's this kind of a joke, but also it's very sad. Like I was in the music business for 12 years, and there's the 27 Club, right? The
Mhm.
27 Club
Mhm.
basically are people who didn't make it past the age of 27 because the music business ate them up because they were such a
Mhm.
channel, such an extraordinary channel. But I would guess that if you were to spend time with the people who got eaten up by the music business, their relationship to power would be a huge part of what happened because there's a lot of disempowerment narratives that go on inside of an artist's head. Uh, and so it's not just for artists, it's for all heart-centered leaders. But there is like a creativity component. And then because we don't have um, a spectrum to look at, because we've been taught to be dualistic about power. So then we see, say, we see somebody like a strong man, right? Our When we see a strong man, often if we've had an experience with that type of energy in the past that was hard, um, then we look at ourselves and we go, okay, my only two options is disempowerment or some sort of extreme reaction to this. And I know that you've done like work around this, like when you have experienced, um, in the workplace, for instance, somebody disempowering you or somebody trying to have power over you, and then, how do you get creative, right? So let's just touch the nerve first on power and how it can be a dirty word across the board, but that's actually potentially the thing that's keeping us from birthing our bodies of work, right? So anyway, that's kind of two questions, but those are things I think would be an effective use of our time today.
Oh my God, giddy up. I'm here for it. Okay. I'm going to set some intellectual context very quickly. And before I do this, I want to assure your very bright minds that I'll send you these diagrams. So if there's part of you that's like, wait, but like, I don't get it yet. And like, I don't get the definitions or I don't get the thing. The big headline one is power is a sensation, not an idea. So the importance of the words is bringing precision to articulating sensations. But first, we have to feel sensations before we can talk about sensations. So, the quick introduction to the definition of power. I was sparked by the curiosity about this because if you ask any group of people how they define power, you will get a lot of confusing, muddy replies. Most people can't define power in a useful way. Most people use the word influence. Nope, that's different. Authority. Nope, that's different. The ability to win in battle or to triumph. Nope. Okay, so then what are we talking about? Here's how I define power. And I'm going to do a little screen share here for these purposes. So here's how I define it. And I will go into, you don't have to lean that close here. I'll go full presentation. Hope that helps. Okay, so one, I define power as the capacity to move energy through systems. In this work of being precise, there are three main things I want to call out here in this definition. One, it's a capacity. So if you'll like look at my tiny little Brady Bunch window, how this is different is people usually define power as a thing that you either have or you don't. We talk about power as something that humans can either have or not, almost in like a birthright kind of way. Wrong. We all have power and it's a capacity. So if it's a capacity, it can be developed. Yay. That's the really, really confetti drop good news. Then, if it's to move energy through systems, well, energy shows up in all types of flavors. So if it shows up in all types of flavors, maybe power is not one thing, one monolithic thing, because we talk about power as a monolith. The people with power are the problem. They have power, we don't. I mean, it's just like zero precision. Literally every conversation in every political sphere, in every workplace, people can barely discern what they're talking about when they talk about power. So we're getting more precise. And then through systems, we live as nested systems. That is a life principle. So there's the system of the self, we have relationships, we are in collectives, we're in ecologies. Oh, power can radiate through many scales. Helpful. Okay, and then from there are two forms of power that we all conduct. And I'm just gonna like highlight mouse dance over the word all because we love heart-centered leaders love to be self-righteous about power. It's practically spiritual cocaine for heart-centered leaders to be like, oh, I'm so much better than those unevolved pieces of garbage also on planet Earth who just haven't gotten the memo. Great. So part of the invitation is letting go of the narrative that there are good people and bad people. This is part of what keeps us stuck. And if you live in the United States, it's turning on, so I'm getting hot. If you live in the United States, or if you're like paying attention to anything happening in the United States post-election, there is a tsunami of shadow power expression happening across the country. And it's not just associated with one political party, despite, again, how much people would like to believe that. So, if we're getting away from bad and good, what is shadow power and what's power that serves the whole? Shadow power originates from disconnection consciousness, whereas power that serves the whole originates from connection consciousness. This means we all have those forces within our being. It's literally like a whole other way of seeing the world. And it can happen that fast. You have probably already snapped into your shadow power at least once on this call, if not like 10 times. It's just flip, 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 flip. But because it's so fast and because we don't pay attention to it, we often don't notice it. But then we don't know who's driving the bus. And this is where we get to have a lot more fun because the things that shadow power creates are like, it's just not that yummy. It's not that fun. So shadow power creates blockage, confusion, disconnection, exhaustion, harm, othering, and degeneration. Whereas, oh, and also shadow power, if you look at my hands in the like tiny window, or actually I'm gonna, just for the benefit, I'll come back to screen share. So shadow power operates from disconnection and the belief that we're separate and either better than other people or other life forms, or worse. So this better is shadow power over. And shadow power over. So this is arrogance, this is judgment, this is um like this is the one who dehumanizes others or debases other life forms. And this form of shadow power, which I call power over, is often what people associate with the word power. There's like one huge problem. That it's just like, oh, the people in power, this story is what's being told. So like, of course you don't want that. If you're here to serve the greater good or to make meaningful art, like that is incongruent with your identity. You're just like, well, I don't like, I'm not here for that. But then what heart-centered leaders do in their consciousness is they're like, oh, I so don't want to be this, so I'll just be like a complainy, wounded victim. And I'll talk about how like everything's against me and it's so hard and like I can't make it and I can't deal with like what's unfolding on planet Earth. But then the sneaky thing about shadow is like anytime you get into disagreement with people, this is usually happening. So if a heart-centered leader is like, "Oh, but like I'm not supported enough or it's too hard to do my work or like people aren't paying me enough," then your shadow will flip into power over and be like, because those people are idiots, like they're so dumb, like they're monster. As soon as that happens, that's how shadow power is sneaky and keeps us on its feet. Because it's just like basically every political conversation. You can insert any content here, any fight. And what I'm doing right now is showing you the root signature of where war comes from. So we take this energetic pattern and you play it out in your own consciousness of the voices that are like, you're a piece of shit, or like, maybe I can't do it, or like, I'm doubting myself. It's just blah, 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 flipping between those. And then we do the energetic math of shadow power in one and add it to two. And that's how you get conflict between people. Then you add it to many. That's how you get like organizational shadow power. You add it to more many. That's how you get societal shadow power. That's like where colonization and oppression and extraction come from. Then you add it to more people and you get the climate crisis. So it's like these are all consequences of these forces. Whereas power that serves the whole creates flow and clarity and connection and aliveness and benefit and belonging and regeneration. And like yum, 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 yum. So if you look at these first two words, blockage and flow, think about a watershed. Flow is the water flowing through the watershed. To expand your power that serves the whole, which by the way is the whole point of individual human existence, is to expand. Like we all have an ancient, wise, holy longing to expand our power that serves the whole in this initiatory existence of being human. We like desire this, and that it is a holy desire. But in order to do that, we have to meet every single place where we block ourselves. Because we are so powerful that we have convinced ourselves that we're not. So one of the things I like to leave people with in navigating power that serves the whole is like, watch what makes you brighten. Watch what's like yummy in a nourishing way, not in a like junk food way. Watch for these signatures because we all have voices that speak from this perspective and this perspective. And our main authority happens when we learn not only can we track and intercept these voices, they are one of our wisest inner teachers, guiding us to learn how to transmute those blocked shapes and make it, alchemize it, transform it into our bigger expression, our bigger contribution, our bigger joy, our bigger turn on, our bigger magic, our bigger family, our bigger fun, our bigger vision. The keys are here. So I'm just going to pause as like a breath break. Does anyone else need to breathe? I encourage you to breathe right now. Yeah. And like that, so like very one final little like cherry button, going back to the 27 Club, which I had never heard that. That is, wow. That's a, and it's like shadow power is also a benevolent design in human consciousness because power that serves the whole is the muchness. Power that serves the whole is all of the electricity in creation. So shadow power is like an aperture on our consciousness so we don't blow out the film, so we don't deatomize, so we don't have a spiritual emergency where there's too much electricity flowing through the system that we literally go crazy. That's part of the healthy fear of our power that serves the whole. That's why wisdom traditions exist. That's why initiation takes steps. Because anytime you try to rip it open, the thunderous fire of the entire creation is coming to meet you. And you may or may not be ready for it. So that's why we go in stages. And that's why, like, that fame path you are describing. No wonder. No wonder it eats people up. Not only just because there is shadow power, like in the industry, which there is, but it's not only, but like there definitely is. But it's also because, like, can you deal with all the love? Can you deal with the magnitude of the love you're receiving? Can you deal with the like flow of wealth you're getting? Can you deal with the flow of opportunities? Do you know how to navigate externally and not give in to the parts of you that are not in your own best interest? It's not just all external fuckery. It's also the one who like what oh, it wants you to fixate. Your shadow power wants you to fixate on everything outside of you that can be a reason to blame. It's the industry, it's the economy, it's this politician, it's my parents, it's my partner, it's my kids, it's the environment, it's my ancestral grief. And like all of those things have their place. But until we learn to do this and then bring it forward and say, no, we're being puppeted by something that will just keep filling in something into the Mad Lib slot and saying, yep, 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 don't look at me.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much. I love straight shooting. Um, Made me think of when you were talking about kind of the sacred fire, the holy
Mm.
flame that you're talking about with the 27 Club. To me, like, you know, music is a spiritual thing. So you don't mess with it. And that was actually a amazing Nigerian musician who first said that. He said, if you mess with it, you'll die young, right? And and it's not just music, but I was having a chat with a friend over the weekend who's struggling. immensely right now because he's a really super conscious Jewish man, and
Mm,
he's working through a lot, and he was kind of like weighing out, does he just like shut that down now? Like, does he just shut it out and shut it down because of how he's feeling about the way things are going down in the world right now, geopolitically? And um and it got me thinking about like how if we are this like spiritual being here on this planet, and this planet is overlapping with some other realm and potentially other realms, and we're tapping into that through our human experience, through creativity, through shadow power, through all of these different things. It made me think about this story of the desert fathers and mothers who left, and they had would have had their own shadow power because they left the city, because uh, um, Rome had apprehended an otherwise sort of, underworld cult called Christianity, and Rome had apprehended it, and they left, as kind of a response to, um, not wanting it to be the state power that is colonial and whatever. So they went and lived in caves and lived simple lives, and really actually have some beautiful things to say about, noticing that those, like what you were doing here, they were really good at that. They had practices for that, and they came up with this term called acedia, which
mm.
was,
You
they
spell
called
that?
the noonday demon. So basically,
Mm.
the voice that starts, the you don't even know you're doing it when you're doing it, where you play out scenarios,
Yep.
and literally you're draining yourself of your power when you're doing this, right?
Oh, yeah.
So they had practices to notice that. But there was one story of, um it was, Abba Joseph, and there was a guy who is like doing all the right things, and he comes along, and it's kind of like a cone, like a Buddhist cone, where he's like, I say the office, I fast, I do all these things. What else can I do? And Abba Joseph is older and very, very practiced at what
Mm,
I would say what you're talking about, Larissa, around noticing, and then, kind of, getting into alignment for that flow to actually be flow. Because if you're not in alignment with it, it's like, and the fire comes, all that really happens is you just get burned, right? But there's a point where he just says to the young man, and the sun is setting behind him, and he puts his hands out like this, and his fingers looked like they had flames coming out of them.
mm,
And he said, if you will, you can become all flame. So in other words, the teaching was
mm.
that, um, misalignment is going to cause wildfires. It's going to burn. It's going to do all these things. So my question to you, Larissa, is, um, like when I look at the power, um, that serves the whole, the those and all those yummy things, right? Um, there's practices, there's a whole lot of things that we've got to do in order to, because like, what does it take even just for the first one? Flow is like, well, you can get carried down the river in flow. You can get hit by a flow of, you know, like, like a fire hose, or
Mhm.
so, and if we're not skilled, in working through our blockages, and getting artful about it, then, uh yeah, I just have some, like, I'd like you to kind of speak to, um I guess maybe gentleness with time, like how much, like the
Mm.
timing. You talk about your healing journey with your fall um, being a longer journey. Um, so how do we go about starting to engage with this? Because we get these ideas and then we kind of jump on them, right? And then what happens? You like put a fire hose in your mouth. Basically, it's like, you know, whoa, I want flow, like that kind of thing. So, yeah, maybe speak to like the wisdom that we need in order to do this kind of transmuting of, because I love this is, I mean, like there's so many reasons why you're on here, but one of the biggest reasons is because um I'm kind of done with the shadow power part not having a role to play in the recipe of what's going on. And I love how you said they're like guideposts, or like you can start noticing them and they're actually like a gift, because if they weren't there, you wouldn't even notice. So, yeah. So maybe just like speak to that a little bit.
I love you so much. The quality of question and wisdom that you carry and steward is something I just need to. Well, I'll do this at the end because I really care about honoring, but like, whoa, women, wellspring women, you are graced to be guided by this incredible being. Like your understanding of this is so potent. So, so good. Okay. I'm going to give an example of um, what what can go wrong when we open to flow. Because you can be like, oh, yay, like, but I'm in flow or I'm in connection or like we're in belonging. Like, once I'm there, it's just a steady state, right? And the way I talk about wayfinding is it's an art, it's a martial art, it's a wisdom path, it's a dance, it's so many things. And the martial art aspect of it. So I've studied medical Qigong. I'm a certified medical Qigong practitioner, done a 200-hour training. Medical Qigong is like Tai Chi. So Qi being the Chinese word for life force. So like really tracking like where is the edge of the life force? As artists, as creators, and I don't know if you're all artists, but like, can you just give me, is everyone here an artist or is a creator?
I
Or,
mean, everybody here is creative for
I
sure.
mean, everyone's an artist. Everyone's an artist,
Yeah.
but like, great, we're just gonna go with that. Everyone's an artist. You're all artists. Your art could also be accounting. So everyone's an artist. And part of how we steward this vessel, part of how we steward anything is by like listening to the living edge of aliveness. Where is it? Where does it want to go? And sometimes it gets really loud. And if we're not practiced in cultivating our sensing, which is understandable in modern industrialized Western civilization, where intellect, what I call mental power, is seen and falsely upheld as the only form as human intelligence. Wrong. That's not true. Sensing power is, which like other people use the word intuition. I specifically don't use that word because I don't find it very precise because we're not like, what's intuiting? No, you're sensing. You sense with your invisible eyes, you sense with your invisible ears, you sense with your invisible, the senses, the extrasensory perception layer. So because that type of sensing and that type of intelligence isn't valued, it gets shut down. Anything you don't use, you lose. So we have atrophied. We're basically like pre-kindergartners at our sensing for the most part in this culture, and like whatever level of intellectual development you are. So we're just like working in a hamstrung way. But sensing is the tuning fork of wisdom. Mental power is not wisdom. Those are ideas. Ideas are great. Ideas are cool. Ideas do lots of things, but it's not wisdom. Just that's my perspective. And you can, you know, pressure test that if you want. Um, because ideas can justify anything, whereas wisdom is musical and vibrational in nature. It's tonal. Our body's like, whoa, whoa, yes, yes. Feel it. Okay. So with our atrophied sensing, one of the gentle practices of opening things up is developing your sensing. And I'm going to come back to this. So I'm just going to like leave this here and we're going to go finish the cautionary tale. When we don't have developed sensing and the fire hose comes on, the big opportunity comes. You get the contract, you land the money, you go on the date with like, oh my God, I'm going to like lose my mind over this being. Whatever the big turn on is, whenever it gets really high, we can become addicted to the amount of electricity. Has anyone ever gone on a creative binge where you're just like, oh my God, but it's all coming through and I have to catch it all now and I have to like write the songs or write the words or paint the paint or dance the things or oh my gosh, like, and then you're like, wow, I'm exhausted and I feel like garbage and I think a couple people hate me and I might have some messes to clean up and I have bills I haven't paid and the house is a disaster. That is what I like to call the rapture. We can become very self-focused and like life force coke addict about like, oh, but I just like want it. Oh, but I just like how spirit tastes. And I just like the flow and I like the vibe and I like the thing and I just like want more of it. And it's like we're still in bodies. You're still responsible for stewarding a physical vessel, as well as all the other aspects of your being. So that's a form of spirit shadow power because creativity I locate under spirit power. It is not an idea. It is the opening of the channel and the receiving of the transmission and the inspiration for you to uniquely transmit through the prism of your being. But like it can get a little crazy. And so part of the task, part of the ask is actually like balancing and being like, okay, I'm gonna open the door. I'm gonna open the door. I'm gonna open the door and like, oh my God, like amazing. Oh, this is like so inspiring. I'm like, I'm also gonna like close the door because I've been sitting for 12 hours and maybe I shouldn't do that anymore. And like, wow, this is why like my blood sugar is constantly a mess, or why like my partner is starting to hate me and like why our relationship might be degenerate. So it's like balance is asked for in these things. And so sensing, if we go back to sensing, if sensing is atrophied, and then which is basically like you can't tell where the living edge of the life force is, of like what's going to bring me aliveness now. Oh, and like how do I respond? How do I dance? How do we dance? If you can't sense subtlety, and that's like just turning a light on and off, or like turning, like lighting a candle. And then someone throws a breaker and illuminates like the whole city. You're probably not going to be able to sense where your edge of burnout is. You're probably not going to, and like if you just think about all those other shadow powers, like, and this is the wisdom of like yin and yang. And I don't know this in Christian language, so you can maybe like give the language, but it's like anything, anything. If like the flow gets too high, the flow gets too high, the soil gets stripped, the plants get ripped away. There's a flood that happens in our bodies. And so it's like, I can say from my own process of creating this map, this map, this map of these 36 powers. So I talked about spirit power. We've talked about sensing power and mental power. Talked about alchemy power. We flourish when we water and tend all of our types of power. And this map, I'm going to say a couple things that are kind of like the intro level, and then I want to take you to like an advanced level creative share about this. People in general feel reconnected to their sense of self and reconstellate their identity of, oh my gosh, maybe I am a powerful being when they start seeing this language because they're like, oh, like I'm playful. People love how I play. And like I'm like cultivating amazing connections in my family. And I make reliably solid decisions. And like even though my wealth power might not be doing super hot at this moment. My ethics and stewardship power and my design power are on lock, and my spirit power is amazing. And I've been doing a ton of privilege power work, and I feel good about that. And I'm like devoted to learning. Oh, wow, maybe I'm powerful. You are powerful. We are all powerful. So, in my creative process, and I've never shared about this, my creative process in identifying these things. And then what I did was I articulated how power that serves the whole shows up for every single one of these types of power. So what does power that serves the whole mean for inner and physical and emotional and sensing and mental? And then what does shadow power over mean for every single one of these types? And then what does shadow power given away mean for every single one of these types? And I have like hundreds of examples that I've captured in these definitions. And for me, the process of doing that channeling, and it was channeling, it was not intellectual, was in the beginning of 2023. It felt like I was like opening the door to listen to the sounds beyond different voices. I was like, what is the original voice? What is the like realm beyond sound that holds the base code vibrational truths, which is like getting your face a little too close to the sun. And I would have this experience where I'd be like, "Ah," and then like shut the door. And I'd be like, right, 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 right. And then I would just like, like, oh my God, on my bed. And I've never shared this story before because there hasn't been the level of understanding. And so like there's a way that we have to sense like, oh my God, what does channeling this electricity? Because if life force, and don't worry, I'm going to send you this image, but it's going to go away now. What does it ask of my material being? Because it is our earthliness, it is our corpus, it is our humic earth body that is the teacher in contact with this lightning. That's glorious, but it will fucking vaporize you. So, like, we actually have to tend the body, tending the interface of that current into the vessel. We do it by sensing and being like, oh, how can I, like, if I do this, will like my aliveness rise a little bit? But it's like if I keep writing, and this is how to make it so granular, because this is how I healed myself from my near fatal accident. Most people don't know what 1% aliveness feels like. If zero is death's doorstep and 100% is the most you've ever felt in your life, I know what 1% aliveness feels like. And I know what every single other percentage point feels like because I've like, oh, just thousands of times in my healing journey. So it's like, let's say you're doing your creative work or you're doing your business work or whatever your thing is, and just the question of like, will it raise my aliveness for me to keep going or to stop? Is that ever the decision-making process? Will it raise my aliveness to have a phone call with someone or to have alone time?
I'm just typing that in there. It's so
Yeah,
powerful. It's a
where
great, it's like
it's
the measuring tool, right? How you're
it's
talking
this
about
is
like,
literally
yeah.
like if you when you're talking about like gentleness and time and patience, I have like a tantruming child inside of me that I had to just assuage over the 13 years who was like, I fucking hate how long this is taking.
Mhm.
And I'd be like, well, this is part of spirit. Spirit has infinite patience. So, do you want to go for a 10-mile hike and totally fucking blow yourself out? Or do you want to have a rebellious night at a community potluck when you should really be at home asleep? You can do that. That's the power of free will. We can do that. And we get to learn, and we get to learn, and we get to learn, and we get to learn. But following this subtle edge of will it raise my aliveness or not, if you become a master tender of your aliveness, and that's going back to the five spheres, the personal. If you're like, oh, right, oh, that's a little too much. Let's like pull it in. We have to know how to do it in the simplest scale to do it well in relationship with a beloved or beloveds, whatever your constellation is, with a team, with your family, with society. And so that's why, just going back to the election, that's why we are completely ill-equipped to talk about collective shadow. That's why we go into explosive, you're, you know, because we have no idea where this edge is. So, like, how can we possibly tackle those things when we don't know what our shadow is? We don't know what our power that serves the whole is. We barely know how to tend our sensing and our aliveness. So like, I don't share those things to like stoke despair or existential crisis. The fix is so simple. Wake up, do whatever your morning practice is, and then ask, what would bring me the most aliveness today? And then do it. Because there are two steps to repairing your relationship with your sensing. One is listening to it at all. The second is doing what it says. If you don't do both, you are communicating to the tuning fork of your wisdom, to your sensing power, that it doesn't matter. So, like, think of it as a friend that you're just like, you never ask its advice, or you ask its advice and they're like, meh, I don't really care. And you just do that all the time. And sensing, unlike humans, doesn't develop resentment. However, it doesn't get stronger. Your relationship with it doesn't get stronger by constantly self-violating. So if you feel that's where like this courageous edge of like, oh, but my sensing is inviting me to do something edgy. You won't get presented bigger growth and bigger edges and bigger opportunity and bigger power if you can't meet that one. So like that's like the um getting the reps in, to use like an athletic analogy. I was an athlete like my entire life, and in so many ways, this is like a life athlete thing. That it's like, oh, okay, can I meet that? Can I meet that now? And then if I have a sensing and it's like, oh, but it feels at odds. Have you ever had a sensing where you're like, oh, this is clear, but it feels really at odds with this other thing? Widen the aperture of your sensing and sense again. Because if you're asking, like, oh, will this support my aliveness? And then it's like, oh, but will this support the family's aliveness? So we have to be precise. You invoked precision before folks got on. And so I've just been like really leaning into it. We, mythology, like countless mythological stories, the art of agreements where people are entrapped because they make shitty agreements or unclear agreements or vague agreements. This is actually precision. I don't want to like over mind this, but like this is one of the gifts of the mind is focus. What are you focusing on? The magic wand of our mind can create hellscapes and can create like incredible outcomes. And it's about cultivating our focus in precise ways and coordinating that with our sensing in precise ways and coordinating that with our communication and our articulation in precise ways. So to be like, what if I focus on will make me feel like that? And aliveness and presence, or what I can often call consciousness balance, if you just tend those two things, what's going to make me the most alive and what's going to make me the most present, if you tend those two things, you will inevitably get power that serves the whole. Period. The more present you are and the more alive you are, and the more you tend both of those, you'll just be sensing your way into like boop, 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 boop.
Larissa, do you have time for if anyone has a question?
I was just going to say I would love to do questions, and I'm going to look at my calendar because today is a feast, is the nice word to use. Just give me 1 second to bring up a different window. Yes, oh my gosh, let's do it. I would love to do it.
So if anyone has a question for Larissa, now's the time to yeah, just what has come up for you? What's come up for you um, as we explore all the ingredients here at the Wellspring? You know, whatever it is, if there's something you have to ask, um, yeah, I think it's just a lot of rich stirring. It's good. Good.
I have sort of 1,000 questions, um, but now I'm like precision. This is always my problem. Um, the sense
Applause. I'm applauding you on that move. That's amazing to catch that. That's amazing. Okay, please go ahead.
well, precision is one of my questions in some ways, but also I'm wondering about the kind of practices or ways that um, support um, the sensing capacity that is helpful in this milieu. We do lots of practices, right? Meditations and that kind of stuff. And um, in some ways, I'm well versed in that, but I'm wondering if that's the kind of thing that you're aiming for as you're talking about the sensing um, in this discussion.
Yeah, amazing, amazing question. I just put in chat a video that's a resource, free resource for you. That this is a guided experience of what I described, of what you can do every day. Um, we can get bored with practices being the same. We can be very enamored with answers. But the practice of attending to a question every day, I have found is actually what fruits precision. And so the practice
One of
of
the
like,
core skills we need.
yeah, that one. Exactly. Perfect. You got the link.
Yeah, so
I
I was trying
also,
to open it so that I didn't lose it.
oh, no, wonderful. I'm so glad you did. I also was applauding you on your tee up to your question because when you're saying precision can be something I struggle with, the work to open the channel, sometimes we can struggle with precision because we've opened the channel and it's a flood. And we're like, whoa, this does not shut off. This is a loud experience in here. And it's like, which one of the 1,000 questions do I say? And that's why I was applauding you. Because when there's the rush, when there's the force of like, everybody go, it's like there's 87 fish. Which fish? It's like a full river. And that practice, I've been doing that exact thing that you just did like 50 times on this call. And I know our amazing host has been doing that too. There's a restraint. So there's the dynamic paradoxical balance between the burgeoning life force and restraint. This dynamic is where the magic happens. Leaning into both. Leaning into like, yes, my aliveness, yes, the yes, and like, where do I hold? But where do I like catch the water? Where do I hold the water? Where do I pool the life force instead of because if the life force is coming through and you just dump it out, you've just dumped it all out. And like that, have you ever had like a time of channeling where after you're like, I am empty? Anyone? Hands up.
Yeah.
You like went on a tear, but then you're also, it kind of feels like a spiritual bender. And you're like, oh, I feel like a dry gravel bed now. You're like, who knew that this drought was going to hit after that flash flood? So there's a way where it's like finding that it's a, and so much, I don't know how much you talk about this with like your alchemical stuff. I do a lot of embodiment in my work. And my community of wayfinders like know that I'm kind of like a Muppet. I'm like a stage actor because these shapes, coming back to the shapes, it's about knowing like, oh, don't just lean into the edge of aliveness. It's like there's an equal opposite grounding. It's like restraint is like the roots of your tree, and aliveness are like the leading edge branches constantly reaching. But if you're just like, oh, aliveness, aliveness, creativity, expansion, boo, tree's over. Hurricane comes, unrooted. So that's why it's like, oh, what's the one thing I can do to tend my aliveness? And sometimes the answer is a restraint-based answer. It's a rest answer. It's a less rather than more. It's a like, let's not talk to people right now. So I hope that helps.
Well, and I will definitely be watching that video.
Yeah.
Um, the other fish that I would grab for is to do with the balance, like what
Mm,
what what will make me most alive, or what will bring me aliveness. And this is the project that I've been tasked to do, that I need to do for deadline, for whatever, for
yes.
getting this piece
Yes.
to the person so that they can do their piece, whatever. That is and it's an amorphous thing. Like, it's not like, here, just cook, bake this pie and then it's done. It's kind of a, let's reconceptualize something, and you know in in some
I
way.
think I know where you're going. So if it's okay if I like
Yep.
tag in, because I also want to make space for Rachel if Rachel has a question. So what you're describing, what I think you're describing is like how to the balance between doing and non-doing in creation and in participatory creative environments. Because like all work and all team environments in modern industrialized blah 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 culture tend towards doing and no boundaries, right? So like work has this outsized domination over every other sector of life, every other type of power. And so the part of the magic trick is that we can, it's a very also no one is like a categorical muggle. We just behave like muggles. So that's my footnote before I say it's a really muggly thing to be like, work harder, you get more done. And
Yeah.
it's like, no, you keep you keep burning it, you keep grinding, you're gonna drain the source. You're gonna exhaust the fuel. That's literally where we get burnout. Where it's just like, do more, do more, do more, do more, do more, do more. It's the endless carrot like taunting us. It's like, oh, if we get there, then I'll feel powerful, then I'll feel fulfilled, then I can rest. I work with executives constantly about this. This is like a heart of my executive coaching. And so it's a real mind fuck to be like, I want to show up in my potency and my power. So I'm actually gonna, it's like pulling the bowstring back. When you pull back and you're like, I'm going to have restraint, I'm going to create boundaries, I'm going to actually try to work fewer hours. And the hours I'm not working, I'm going to fill my well so deep. I'm going to be so off. I'm going to be so nourished so that when I show up, potency. So we like cultivate potency by leaning so far in the other direction, filling the well so deeply, not like, oh, I'm half checking, or I'm like, I'm kind of always on, or I'm like maybe always doing it, or like I have no boundaries, you know, that that is the practice of how you get like not just some great output, that's how you get octave jumps in your power, is by honoring your aliveness fully and leaning deeply into your restraint and your self-cultivation. So it's like more energizing of those two. But I'm going to pause there and we could like do this for hours because that's what I do with people as I do this for hours and months. But thank you so much. And I'd love to see if Rachel has anything.
Yes, those definitely were some of my questions. So thank you for feeling into that. I do have a question about um um I hear that, buddy. Yeah. Um it's my toddler in the
Good.
background.
Good.
I'm thinking about the shadow power and feeling, feeling into like I feel exhaustion coming up or I feel disconnection coming up and not going into, I think, the shame posture towards that, being like I shouldn't be disconnected or I shouldn't harm people or I don't harm people. I'm trying, like the narratives that then come up around like hiding that and like not like, and so I'm curious, like noticing like I'm feeling confused, like I'm started kind of unwinding it a bit, but I'm wondering like feeling it, is it sensing more into the sensation of it? Like, what does confusion feel like in my body? Or is it being able to see it and moving it? Like, how do you, when you notice some of those things come up for you, like, what is the response? So it's not like, get rid of it or like make it a thing that like make it more than it maybe needs to be.
Mhm.
I hope that's clear.
Makes total sense.
Just wait a second, buddy.
By the
Yeah.
way, I want to applaud both of you for showing up and like the act of asking a question, being like, God, I don't fully have the words where I'm trying to describe the dynamic. You are, by doing that, you are practicing the practice of precision. You are building the muscle of precision because like people will just give up. They'll be like, ugh, I can't even describe energy. Like, why try to do it? Or I can't describe power. I can't. Things that are invisible, people will give up on because they don't have language. So then they never get better at the language because we don't want to look stupid. We want to sound smart, blah, 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 all this stuff. And so I still spend so much of my life being like, like this thing where it's like kind of like this and it feels like that, or it's like this color, I just have no qualms about or expressing in that way because it's how we find it's like trying to smell something that you're like, what does that smell like? What does that smell? What is that? And then you call others in to find what's the dynamic. So like that's actually part of precision. Precision gets stronger through community. Okay, so your question that you're asking, one of the ways that I act out shadow power is it's like a skin that is so it's an overlay that's right there. It's right there, but it's like we're like saran wrapped in it, so we think it's us. And so I'll act out shadow power by like we'll just be coming from our shadow. It's like, oh, this is going well, and then like, oh, I don't know, maybe it's not. Like maybe I shouldn't do it. And then we'll be like, oh, wait, what? No, like I'm actually doing well. And then you're like, yes, we're doing well. And then like, but now it comes time to post. And then like, oh God, like what am I gonna look like? And so just recognizing that the experience of gaining traction with our tracking of power that serves the whole and shadow power is gonna feel like this. It's just, and you're gonna be like, no, no. And to just be like, you're not a dumbass. You're not a dumbass. You're not a failure. You're not getting it. You're not unworthy. It's just the process of like lifting it off and letting it go and lifting it off and letting it go. And that also, shadow power doesn't have just one head. So it's like a many-headed hydra. So we'll do this. So it's like, let's say doubt. I'm just going to give some names so that I can act this out. So let's say you're like doubting yourself. You're in a state of doubt. And it's like, oh God, like I don't know if I know. Like, I don't know. I felt really inspired about that thing that I was creating, but then like my mom said something about it, and now I don't know. And then to be like, but wait, like my sensing was really strong there. So we like get some distance from the one, and as soon as we see it, then another head of shadow will sprout and be like, look how fucking undeveloped you are. But like, you even went into doubt. You should be ashamed. So it's like, it's not a one-headed thing. It'll just sprout and sprout and sprout. And so a lot of if and when that happens, that's very disorienting. Then people are just like, oh, I should just give up. But also a mechanism of it doing this is it just wants us to keep listening to it and focusing on it. So like part of the trap door is just like, because people like to figure it out. People are like, oh, kind of like it's a Rubik's Cube. They're like, oh, if I just like look at my shadow power long enough, or like if I just talk about it in therapy for like 30 years, if I just like, wait, what are the buttons? Like, what's going on in here? Like, what's happening? Wait, you know? And it's like all of your focus, all that mental power is lasering in on your shadow power, which brings it into full frame, and now that's taking up the whole picture. That's where shadow power gets power, where we eat it and focus on it and talk about it and complain about it and write poems about it and fucking email from it and then like self-hate about it. It's like, zoom out. The number one trapdoor is just zoom out and be like, huh, look at the trees. So beautiful. Here's a reason why I love myself. I'm going to listen to a song that makes me happy. And it's not spiritual bypassing and it's not trite. It's literally focus on anything else. And if you can get like when we're like literally in the pit of the underworld and it's a rough moment and there is no light in sight, all you have to do is get to neutral. Don't try to jump to like, yeah, everything's great. Like, I'm an alchemist. I can do that. No, you will not make that jump. We do not make that jump. No one lands that jump. You know, that's advanced spiritual shit. You have what really happens, the move that gets most people there is you go curious. Then you go positive. So it's just like, what if this is actually in my greatest service? What if this is life loving me? What if this is it all working out for me? What if I'm more powerful than I think? What if insert generative statement is another trapdoor? So redirecting your focus and what if, whoop, now we're like not even the frigging construct. And then you like restore your vibration and you restore your focus and you're like, okay, let's keep going. And that whole terrain, that move, if you can get that down, what I just described, your outer life will jump and jump and jump and jump and jump. Because we can get stuck in the underworld and the like, oh, but like, let me just figure, like, I'm just gonna fucking figure this out. A lifetime. I am not overstating that. That's also why we have to go back to the reference. That's why we have millennia long intergroup conflict. Because it's just doing that and 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 that. With like little blips of like voices interjecting for power that serves the whole. Thank you so much for being here today and for asking these questions. And like, oh my gosh, could I wish I were a fly on the wall of the wellspring and what you were doing because holy, holy work, Alana. Holy, masterful, necessary, potent work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Larissa. I am just super pumped that you were here with us. And for all of the women that will be watching this Thank you for joining us. You know, I have said the Wellspring is a timelessness machine, and so the work continues. The work continues, and this was timeless wisdom and hard won and beautiful. Thank you so much, my beautiful sister.
Oh,
Thank you, Rachel and Kamiko and Liz, for being here. I know Liz had to go, but yeah.
my pleasure. And I'm just popping in the chat. If you want to connect with me and you want to ask questions, you can connect on Instagram. Or if you use LinkedIn, I also use LinkedIn a lot because I work with professional people. If
Yeah,
you want to
and
explore the work,
I'll pop all these links in with
awesome.
the replay as well. And if you have anything else you want me to put in there, Larissa will talk about that. And yeah, it was super potent. I knew it would be. Yeah.
I
I
want to
just,
do like a 7-hour conversation series with you.
oh, let's do it.
Let's.
Let's do it. It's so
Thank
needed.
you so much. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And um, genuinely thank you for doing this work.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.